It's sunrise on the side of Raisin Center Highway in Tecumseh, Michigan, less than an hour's drive from Detroit. Morning commuters make their way to work, unaware of the rare ecosystem just down the hill, where a hidden wilderness is thriving and nature's dramas unfold every day. This common yellowthroat scours tangled vegetation in search of insects to take back to its nest. The chicks will have a hearty breakfast this morning. A white-tailed deer stirs up some resting red-winged blackbirds. But there are no hard feelings. On the ground, carnivorous plants receive their nutrients, not from the soil, but from insects they trap. This pitcher plant's slippery hairs cause unsuspecting insects to slip into a pool of digestive enzymes, where they're converted into nitrogen for nourishment. All this is happening on the 700 acres of the Ives Road Fen Nature Preserve. Everywhere you look at Ives, life is thriving, and this is possible because of the work of people like Chuck Pearson. Chuck has logged more than 10,000 hours volunteering to restore wildlife at Ives.
I do that partly to preserve it for other people and future generations. Partly I like the exercise is good for me, keeps me fit. I get to meet people. I get to see interesting plants and animals. I get a sense of accomplishment.
After retiring from his job as an engineer at Ford, hardly a day has gone by that Chuck hasn't done something to help improve this nature preserve. Every Saturday, he's joined by a group of volunteers that share his passion, getting their hands dirty to restore a rare and beautiful place.
I mean, yes, you sweat and you complain and you're exhausted at the end of the day, but at the same time you have a real feeling of accomplishment. And I like the people I work with. We joke around with one another, we look forward to seeing one another. It's actually a lot of fun.
This week, the volunteers were working to restore an upland prairie, but most of the work is focused on preserving the rare and vulnerable habitat that gives the preserve its namesake, the prairie fen. The history of this landscape is written in the chemistry of the groundwater. It's percolating up through limestone substrate deposited by glaciers at the end of the last ice age. The limestone makes the water flowing through it rich in calcium and low in acidity, or alkaline. It's this alkaline groundwater that makes this wetland prairie a fen.
Fens are globally rare wetland communities. They've generally been heavily impacted by human disturbance over time, so there aren't that many around. They're very unique and they have high plant diversity and animal diversity, so they're just very diverse and unique communities that we want to protect.
Chris May manages preserves all over the Great Lakes state for the Nature Conservancy. One of his greatest responsibilities is dealing with plants and animals that don't belong in North America.
One of the biggest threats to our preserves across the state, and Ives Road Fen in particular, are invasive plant species. They're a problem because they form what we call monocultures in some cases, and so there's nothing growing in that area except a particular species that's from another part of the world.
At Ives, the main culprit is a plant called glossy buckthorn. After it was imported from Eurasia, it spread prolifically. Without intervention of conservationists, this fen wouldn't exist as a diverse wildlife sanctuary. Instead, it would be a field of nothing but glossy buckthorn, providing neither food nor habitat for the many life forms thriving here, including a number of rare and endangered species. This untreated stand of buckthorn shows the contrast between plant diversity and what the fen would look like without restoration.
When we acquired Ives Road Fen, there were about 5 or 10 acres of prairie fen on the preserve, and we've expanded that to almost 100 acres through our restoration practices. So restoration is really a way to bring back the wildness to these historically diverse communities.
I will admit, when I first came down here, there were so many invasive species all over the fen that I thought we were engaging in exercise in futility, that it was a feel-good project, but we'd never cut it faster than it grew back. But over time, we started making headway. We saw the native plants come back, and it's just a real feeling of accomplishment.
This is the last remaining patch of mature buckthorn at Ives. Once removed, this fen will once again exist as it did before European settlement. About 70 miles away in the Shiawassee River watershed, a large glossy buckthorn stands in another fen. It's here that Central Michigan University researcher Clint Pogue is leading a study on a rare butterfly found only in prairie fen habitats. The Poe chic skipperling is a modest-looking butterfly. There's nothing showy about it, but its critically imperiled status makes it worthy of Clint's study.
It's sort of a canary in the coal mine for prairie fens. It's on the decline, but we don't know why. And so we would like to understand what's causing it, because it might have larger implications for the entire natural community.
By surveying fens around the area for the presence of Poe chic skipperling and plants associated with it, Clint is building a better understanding about fens as unique, specialized systems.
We want to conserve these centers of biodiversity. If we don't take the time to learn about the ecosystem, to learn about the species here, we're losing a great natural resource.
All of this research and restoration is for the sake of preserving wilderness in a part of the Great Lakes Basin where little wilderness remains.
This is just as much of a wilderness as the Rockies or Grand Canyon or someplace like that. I can guarantee you that if you come to Ives Road Fen Preserve instead, you will see more flowers and more butterflies and more birds.
So the next time you want to get away, look at a local nature preserve. You might be surprised at what you find there.